this is a river. The oldest bridge is the Chain Bridge. There behind it you can see another one, which is the Margaret Bridge. And there is the island I mentioned you, where the Saint Margaret was living. On the right this is Pest, and on the left the hilly part is Buda. On the Pest side you can see a building between the two bridges with a dome. That's the Parliament. And you can see another building on the right with a dome and two towers. That's the St. Stephen's Cathedral, the biggest church in Budapest. And on the left, this is the Buda side. You can see a huge building with a green roof, with the green dome. That's the former royal palace. And behind you can see the Matthias Church. Before we go in, just really a few words about the Parliament, but I tell you a few words at the statue about 1956. And as I told you, on the third day of the revolution, this square was full of people. Many thousand people were here, demonstrated against the Communist Party, and the answer of the party was they just shut out of the windows. Many hundred people died here. That's why you can see a flag. You cannot see, but under the flag there is a tomb for all the people who died here. Can you see the flag, what is in the middle?
Oh.
Why? Because we had to have the coat of arms of the Soviet Union at this time, even in the Hungarian national flag. And the people cut it out and went with flags like this to the streets. So always if you see a flag like this, it's a symbol of the revolution 1956. Which took actually about 2 weeks, but the first few days were really very hopeful, because as I mentioned you, also the help of the Western Europe and of the United States was promised for Hungary, but never arrived. And then more and more Russian tanks were sent against Budapest. More and more people died, and at the beginning of November we had no more chance and it was finished. I forgot to mention about 56, this one, the flame which is always here. Of course, this one was also made just at the beginning of the 90s. And you can see two statues on both sides of the square. Over there, on the other side, is Frank Rákóczi. Rákóczi was the leader of a war of independence and revolution against the Habsburgs, against the Austrians. You know, as I mentioned you, after the Turks left Hungary, the Habsburgs reigned over us for about 200 years, and we had many revolutions and wars of independence. He led one between 1703 and 1711, and then we lost it. And the other gentleman on the other side, Louis Kossuth, he was also a leader of a revolution, 1848-49, so about 150 years later. That was another revolution, but we lost as well. Actually, this was already against Franz Joseph, because Franz Joseph was crowned to emperor. He was 18 years old in 1848. But as I told you, until 1867, until the beginning of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Hungarian didn't accept it. like to show you the building, the only one in the castle district which was not reconstructed since World War II. And that was the headquarters of the German, and before it was the Ministry of Defense. And there is a tunnel system under the castle district, and that was how they could go away as the Soviets arrived, how they could escape. So you can see on the wall still the ruins of Second World War, the buildings and the history. Few words about the square. Behind you, you can see a town hall. That's the town hall of Buda. But why just of Buda? Because Pest, Buda and Old Buda were three separated cities. And as you know, Budapest is a brand new city, exists just from 1873. So that was the town hall of Buda. In the middle of the square, you can see the Holy Trinity Monument, which was built in the 1700s. After a plague epidemic, a lot of people died. And the people who survived it built it up to thank for God, and they didn't die. Do you remember Vienna? Did you go to the downtown? And you see there is a very similar one like this, close to the Hofburg, close to the St. Stephen's Cathedral. Behind the church you can see a white building, which is the Hotel Hilton. Why is it interesting? Because wherever you go, Hotel Hilton is always a modern building. Just remember Prague, or I'm sure you know it much better than me, or the modern Hilton. This is an except here because it was allowed for the company Hilton to build a hotel just in that case if they built in the ruins of the two monasteries which were here before. If you go into the hotel, you can also see the ruins from inside. Soon we go behind the hotel and I will show you the ruins from the other side. Unfortunately, the other part of the building, the other facade is really ugly and it's very modern, it's terrible. But before we go there, we will also go to the church. But before we do it, a few words about the gentleman who is riding there. Do you know who he is? Good, I should tell you anything. So, why does he have the cross in his hand?
Because he introduced Christianity.
Okay, great. Behind him there is the fisherman's bastion. You know, it's 7 towers because of the 7 tribes. We came here in
1896.
Great. Why is it named Fisherman's Bastion? Because in the Middle Age, the different guilds, the different trades had to defend a part of the castle's wall, and for this part, the fishermen were responsible. Soon we will go up to the Fisherman's Bastion and you will have a fantastic view, and then I will tell you why is it castle district. Or I can tell you actually also now. On the other side of this hill, you can see the former royal palace. If you remember, we have seen it yesterday from the Gellert Hill with the green roof, and also now from the square between Tunnel and Chain Bridge, the huge building. But this building is today the National Library and the National Gallery of Hungary. That's why we will not visit it. But that's the former royal palace. 1896, as Hungary was 1,000 years old. In 896, we arrived with 7 tribes, and there are the 7 chiefs of the 7 tribes. In the middle is the main chief riding, whose name was?
Balin. No. Stephen.
Whose name was?
Galleon.
Arpad! Arpad! So there is the riding in the middle. On the top of the column, you can see Archangel Gabriel, who has the Hungarian crown and the cross in his hands, because there is a legend about the Pope. At first he wanted to give this crown to a Polish duke, and then he had a dream. In his dream appeared Archangel Gabriel and told him, don't give this crown to the Polish duke, give it to the Hungarian. And that's why on the next day the Hungarian duke got this crown and was crowned with this exactly in 1000. Who was first Hungarian king?
Stephen.
Stephen, who is standing there. The first statue is Stephen on the left. And also you can see 2 museums on both sides of the street. They were built at the same time as the square in 1896. This is the Museum of Fine Arts. This is the Modern Art Museum. The temporary exhibitions, always with something different.